So I think growing up, I thought marriage was going to be super simple, right? I wouldn't have to work anymore. I think as a kid, I thought marriage was more of a checkpoint that I hit to where I don't have to work anymore. I found someone who's going to keep me happy forever. I'm done dating. I'm done having to spend money. I think as a kid, it was this idealistic point, marriage was, where you just stop having to worry about anything, and that's not the case. The older we get, the more we realize that. The more we date, the more we realize that it's constant work. And in these studies, in marriage studies, we find that marriage is harder than just regular dating. It is constant work. There's going to be a crisis. There's going to be that family crisis. There's going to be bumps along the road. But it's interesting because it is meant to keep you happy, right? Marriage is meant for someone to build you up while you build that other person up. But more than anything, I think with this idea of transitional character, I think was this idea of someone's background, their history, melding with your history, your background, right? And divorce are two big things I found. Divorce is a scary word, but it's a word or a practice. It's almost a practice that's done too often in our day and age, and it shouldn't be. Marriage is sacred, and it should be held to such a standard. Divorce is possible, and it's meant for extreme circumstances. An extreme situation is meant for only extreme circumstances, whether it be abuse, infidelity, or extreme family situations. But it's important to know those situations, because then some people think that divorce shouldn't be an answer, that it should never be an answer, and that's not the case either. But family counsel should always be considered. When crisis is met, counsel should be there. Like an umbrella. When rainy days happen, because they will happen, we get ourselves an umbrella, and it protects us from the rain. It keeps us dry. And what's interesting about an umbrella is after that rainy day, we have an umbrella for the rest of the days. We have something to protect us from rain whenever that rainy day comes again. And so family counsel should be considered the same as an umbrella. When we hit those crises, right? When we hit those moments of personality differences or boredom, because it'll happen. When we hit those crises, when we hit those rainy days, we go to counsel to get our umbrella. And that counsel, that umbrella becomes something that we can use later on in our marriage. And it's interesting to me because the idea of family counsel used to seem this idea of we're admitting that marriage is failing. And it shouldn't be thought that way. It shouldn't. It should be this idea of let's work on it. I want this to work and you want this to work. So let's make this work. That's how family counsel should be addressed or thought of. Instead, it's almost embarrassing, right? It's like therapy is the same way. And so we view family counsel as a whole, I think, as embarrassing. It's humiliating. If I address my spouse and I'm like, I think we need to go to counseling, it's almost like an attack, like you're doing something wrong, but that shouldn't be thought of as either. So along with that, so divorce should only be used in extreme circumstances, right? And family counsel should always be sought after. Even if problems aren't there, sometimes it could be used to give you tips and to give you pointers on how to constantly build that relationship, because marriage is a constant building of a relationship. You're constantly courting and constantly building. And when it comes to transitional character, the other big thing I learned was this idea that there's a cycle, right? When it comes to parenting, there's this cycle of abuse victims, kids who are abused or put into terrible situations, and then they break that cycle. So the abuser abuses, and that abusee becomes the abuser again. That's the cycle, right? It goes down. When a kid's abused, somehow they become an abuser. But when they break that cycle, that transitional character, it's amazing. I think it's more than possible. It's probable, because in a study I learned about dating abuse, we find that the kids more often than not will break that cycle because they see, when they witness abuse, when they witness it, they don't see good behavior, and kids want to emulate behavior that they find good reward in, and they see no good reward in abuse. So more often than not, we find that kids that witness that abuse break that cycle, and it builds people to become stronger. But it's sad because they do carry that for the rest of their life, and it's important to take that and try to break that cycle, and it is difficult. But if that cycle's not been broken, or you find yourself in an abuse situation, it is important to get out, to not try to find a way out. That's just making the situation worse. If abuse or infidelity is there, divorce is an answer. It should be there as an answer. That's what it's there for, is those extreme situations. So that's the thing about marriage.